The alarm bells screamed across Research Station Kepler 442b. As red warning lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow, Dr. Mingy pressed her back against the cold metal wall, her heart pounding as she heard the terrible clicking sounds getting closer. The insectoid HFY raiders had broken through the outer defenses faster than anyone thought possible. "Computer, activate emergency beacon," she whispered urgently into her wrist communicator. The station's AI responded with a calm voice that seemed almost mocking given the chaos around them. Emergency beacon activated. Broadcasting distress signal on all frequencies. Through the reinforced windows of the research lab, Minji could see the massive HFY ships hovering like metallic locusts above the station. These weren't just any raiders. They were the most feared slavers in the galaxy. They're insect-like. Bodies moved with unnatural speed, and their mandibles clicked hungrily as they searched for fresh prey. The distress signals shot out into space, a desperate cry for help that traveled at light speed across the void. It reached the Galactic Confederation first, but the nearest patrol ships were weeks away. The signal kept traveling, bouncing off communication relays and spreading deeper into unexplored space in the station's main corridor. Minji's colleague, Dr. Yuna, was trying to evacuate the civilian researchers. "Move quickly, but stay quiet," she urged a group of terrified scientists. The HFY hunt by sound and movement. But it was too late. The clicking sounds grew louder, and suddenly the walls exploded inward as the raiders burst through. The HFY moved like nightmares made real. Their exoskeletons gleamed under the emergency lights, and their multiple eyes scanned the corridors for victims. They carried strange organic weapons that seemed to pulse with their own life. These creatures had perfected the art of taking prisoners alive. Dead slaves were worthless in their markets. Meanwhile, far out in the dark regions of space where no civilization dared to venture, something picked up the distress signal. A fleet of ships that had been moving silently through the void suddenly changed course. These vessels were unlike anything in the known galaxy, sleek, predatory, and built for war. Back on the station, the HFY had begun their grim work. They moved through the facility with practiced efficiency, stunning researchers with their bioweapons and loading them into transport pods. The raiders communicated through rapid clicks and chittering sounds, coordinating their harvest like a swarm of intelligent insects. Dr. Minji managed to hide in a maintenance shaft, watching helplessly as her friends and colleagues were dragged away. The HFY Queen, a massive creature twice the size of her warriors, surveyed the operation with cold satisfaction. Her species had raided hundreds of stations like this one, and rescue never came to these remote outposts. The emergency beacon continued its desperate broadcast, sending the same message over and over into the endless night. Little did the HFY know that their perfect raid was about to become something very different. Something dangerous was coming, something that would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy and the creatures that lived in it. The bridge of the UES. Retribution hummed quietly as Captain Junho studied the star charts on his command screen. His ship was one of 12 vessels in Earth's deep space patrol, exploring the dark regions beyond known civilization. They had been out here for months, mapping new systems and searching for threats that might one day reach human space. "We're picking up something unusual," called out Lieutenant Sumen from the communications station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she tried to clean up the signal. "It's a distress beacon, but the frequency is ... alien." Junho leaned forward in his command chair, his weathered face showing the strain of months in deep space. "Put it through the translators and let me hear it." The bridge fell silent as the desperate message played. Even filtered through the translation software, the fear in Dr. Mingy's voice was unmistakable. "This is Research Station Kepler 44b. We are under attack by HFY raiders, requesting immediate assistance. Our defenses have failed. They're taking our people." Commander Jinwoo, Junho's second-in-command, frowned at the tactical display. "Sir, that station is deep in Confederation space. We're not supposed to be operating there. This could cause a diplomatic incident. And it's over 3 days away at maximum burn," added Chief Engineer Hannah from her station. "By the time we arrive, whatever's happening will be long over." Junho stood up and walked to the main view screen, staring out at the stars. His crew watched him carefully. They had served under him for 2 years, and they knew that look. The captain was weighing options that could get them all court-martialed. "Sir," Jinwoo said quietly, "I understand your concern, but we have our orders. We're supposed to maintain radio silence and avoid contact with alien civilizations." Orders. Written by people who never heard screams for help in the darkness, Junho replied without turning around. "Tell me, Commander, what would you want if it was your family on that station?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around the bridge, the crew exchanged glances. They were all volunteers, people who had chosen to serve far from home, in the most dangerous regions of space. But this was different. This was about crossing lines that could never be uncrossed. "The Vex-HI are slavers," Junho continued, his voice growing harder. "I've read the intelligence reports. They don't just kill, they take people alive and sell them in markets across the galaxy. Every minute we waste debating means more innocent beings suffering." Lieutenant Suman cleared her throat nervously. "Captain, the other ships in our fleet are requesting orders." They heard the signal too. Junho turned back to face his crew, and they could see the decision in his eyes. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to proceed to the Kepler 4 for to be system at maximum speed. Battle stations." Jinwoo protested. "This could end our careers. Earth Command will not be happy about this." "Then we'll face that when we get home," Junho said firmly. "But I won't let innocent people die because we were afraid of paperwork. Set course for Kepler for to be. It's time these raiders learned what happens when they mess with the wrong neighborhood." The Retribution's engines roared to life, and the human fleet changed course toward an uncertain destiny. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 4-4-B system, their ships running completely silent. Captain Yunho stared at the tactical display, counting dozens of Vex-HI vessels swarming around the research station like angry wasps. The insectoid ships were massive, their bioorganic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that looked almost alive. "My God," whispered Commander Jinwoo. "There are so many of them. How are we supposed to fight that?" Jinho smiled grimly. "The same way a pack of wolves takes down a herd of buffalo. We don't fight fair." He activated the fleet communication. "System, all ships. This is Retribution. Deploy into the asteroid field and power down to minimal signatures. We're going hunting." Vex-HI had no idea they were being watched. Their ships moved in predictable patterns, following the same formation tactics they had used for centuries. These raiders were used to overwhelming weaker civilizations through sheer numbers and terror. They had never faced an enemy that refused to play by the rules of civilized warfare. Lieutenant Suman monitored the enemy communications. "Captain, they're using biological quantum entanglement for ship-to-ship communication. I can't break their encryption, but I can track the signal pathways." "Perfect," Junho replied. "Mark their command vessels. We'll cut off the head of the snake first." The human ships positioned themselves among the floating rocks like predators waiting in tall grass. Each vessel was a masterpiece of stealth technology, designed to be invisible until the moment they struck. The crews waited in perfect silence, their hearts pounding with the anticipation of battle. "All strike teams prepare for simultaneous engagement," Junho commanded. "Remember your training. Hit fast, hit hard, and disappear before they know what happened." The attack began without warning. Human ships erupted from the asteroid field like vengeful spirits, their weapon systems blazing to life. The Vex-HI outer patrol vessels exploded in brilliant flashes before they could even send a warning. The raiders had expected to face another civilized species that would announce their presence and demand surrender negotiations. Instead, they found themselves fighting ghosts. The destroyer, U.S. Shadowhawk, commanded by Captain Deho, struck 3 Vex-HI cruisers in rapid succession before vanishing back into the asteroid field. The aliens tried to pursue, but the human ship was gone, leaving only debris and confusion in its wake. "They're scattering," reported Suman excitedly. "The Vex-HI formation is breaking apart." But Junho knew better. "No, they're trying to reform. These are pack hunters too, just a different kind." He opened the tactical channel again. "All ships, pattern Delta 7. Let's show them how Earth's apex predators really fight. The human fleet began to move like a coordinated hunting pack. They struck from multiple directions simultaneously, never staying in one place long enough for the Vexi to target them effectively. Each attack was calculated to cause maximum confusion and fear among the raiders. The Vexi Queen aboard the command vessel watched her forces being torn apart by an enemy she couldn't see coming. Her mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation as she tried to understand what kind of species could fight with such brutal efficiency. The docking bay of Research Station Kepler-4 shuddered as the human assault pods clamped onto its hull. Inside the station, Vexi guards clicked their mandibles. Nervously, having never seen ships that could approach so silently, their sensors had detected nothing until the magnetic clamps gauged with a metallic thunk that echoed through the corridors. Sergeant Hune pressed his hand against the cutting torch as it sliced through the station's outer hull. Behind him, 12 Marine specialists waited in the cramped pod, their breathing controlled and steady. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were Earth's finest, trained in the harshest environments their deadly homeworld could offer. Remember, Hune whispered into his throat mic, these bugs have never seen humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Let's keep it that way until it's too late. The hull section fell away with a soft clang, and the Marines poured through the opening like liquid shadow. The Vexi guards in the docking bay turned at the sound, their compound eyes scanning for threats. They saw nothing but darkness where the breach had occurred. The first guard never knew what hit him. Hyun materialized from the shadows, his combat knife finding the weak joint in the creature's exoskeleton. The Vexi collapsed without a sound. Its bioweapon clattering uselessly to the floor across the bay. Corporal Yunji moved like a ghost between the cargo containers. Her enhanced vision picked out heat signatures in the darkness, marking targets for elimination. The Vexi were used to fighting species that relied on technology and bright lights. They had never faced predators that evolved to hunt in complete darkness. Contact left, whispered Private Minho through the tactical network. The Marines communicated through hand signals and subvocal transmissions, coordinating their movements without a single electronic signature that the Vexi could detect. Dr. Mingi, huddled in the maintenance shaft where she had been hiding, watching in stunned silence as these unknown beings systematically eliminated her captors. The newcomers moved through the station like they owned it, peering and disappearing with impossible stealth. The Vexi began to panic. Their clicking communications grew rapid and shrill as they reported contacts that vanished before backup could arrive. These raiders were used to being the apex predators, the ones who struck fear into civilized species across the galaxy. Now they were experiencing terror for the first time. Sergeant, came a voice through Han's earpiece. We've located the prisoner holding area. 37 civilians, all alive. Copy that, Tyke. Secure the area and prepare for extraction. Vexi warrior rounded the corner, its bioweapon charging with an ominous purple glow. It found itself face to face with Han, who stood perfectly still in the corridor. The alien's compound eyes registered confusion. This creature looked soft and vulnerable, nothing like the armored species they usually fought. The Vexi never got the chance to fire. Hyun moved with the fluid grace of a predator, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to close the distance before the alien could react. The encounter was over in seconds. Dr. Minji watched in amazement as more Marines appeared from seemingly empty air, their movements coordinated with terrifying precision. These weren't just soldiers, they were apex predators from a world that had forged them into the ultimate hunters, the Vexi. Queen's massive form trembled with rage as she watched the tactical display aboard her command vessel. 300. Years of raiding, she had never seen her warriors fall so quickly to such a small force. Her mandibles clicked rapidly as she processed the impossible data streaming from the battle. Impossible, she hissed in her native tongue. These creatures fight like the ancient stories of the Void Stalkers. Her bioship pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as she activated the deep space communication network. Across 3-star systems, her message reached the other hive fleets. The Queen's chemical signals carried both fury and excitement. These new prey were unlike anything she had encountered. This is Queen Zixthara of the 7th Swarm, she broadcast to her sisters, some in the 3rd, 5th, and 9th hives. To the Kepler system, we face a species that dares to challenge our supremacy. Captain Junho watched from the bridge of the Retribution as his sensors detected the incoming hyperspace signatures. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Suman, her voice tight with concern, "massive fleet movements detected. Estimate 3,000 vessels incoming. 3,000. Commander Jinwoo stepped back from the tactical display. "Captain, we have 12 ships. This is suicide." But Junho was studying the system's star charts with the intensity of a chess master planning his next move, his eyes fixed on the massive gas giant that dominated the inner system, its gravitational field strong enough to crush conventional starships. "Jinwoo, remember your history lessons from the academy," Junho said calmly. "What happened at the Battle of Salamis?" His second-in-command frowned. "The Greeks used the narrow straits to negate the Persian numerical advantage. But, sir, this is open space." "Not exactly," Junho smiled grimly. "Suman, calculate the gravitational tidal forces around that gas giant. I want to know every gravity. Well, every unstable orbit." The hyperspace exits began lighting up across the system as thousands of Vexi vessels emerged from the void. The bioships formed massive swarms, their organic hulls pulsing with coordinated patterns that created a terrifying light show against the darkness of space. Queen Zixthara felt a surge of satisfaction as her reinforcements arrived. 4 hive. Fleets now surrounded the tiny human force. Surely these mysterious predators would surrender when faced with such overwhelming numbers. "All human vessels, form up on my position," Junho commanded. "We're going to thread the needle." The 12 human ships began accelerating toward the gas giant, their formation tight and disciplined. To the Vexi, it looked like a desperate suicide run. The organic ships began pursuing, confident that their prey was trapped. "Captain, Chief Engineer Hannah called out. The gravitational stress is going to tear apart anything that gets too close to the planet." "Exactly," Junho replied. "The Vexi build their ships from living tissue. They're stronger than our metal hulls in some ways, but they're also more flexible. That flexibility becomes a weakness in extreme gravitational fields." The human fleet dove toward the gas giant's upper atmosphere, using the planet's massive gravity well to accelerate to incredible speeds. Behind them, the Vexi swarm followed, their bioships beginning to stretch and distort as they entered the intense gravitational field. Now Junho shouted, "All ships emergency maneuver pattern Omega." Chief Engineer Hannah wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked frantically in the Retribution's engineering bay. Around her, the human crew was performing modifications that would have horrified any civilized species in the galaxy.
Oh.
But humans hadn't become civilized by following rules. They had survived by adapting. "Corporal Johann, hand me those mining charges from the cargo bay," she called out. "We're going to turn them into something special." The young engineer looked confused. "Ma'am, those are for asteroid mining. They're designed to crack rocks, not enemy ships." "Everything's a weapon if you use it right," Hannah replied with a grin. That would have terrified a Vexi warrior. "My grandfather used to say that humans are the only species that can turn a farming tool into a weapon of war." On the research station, Dr. Minji watched in shocked silence as the human Marines began dismantling the medical bay. Sergeant Hayen was carefully extracting nanobots from the healing chambers, his movements precise and purposeful. "What are you doing?" she asked nervously. "Those nanobots are programmed to repair tissue damage. They're also programmed to break down cellular barriers," Hayen explained without looking up. "We're just changing their target parameters." Dr. Minji's eyes widened in horror as she realized what the humans were planning. "You're turning medical equipment into weapons? That's against every galactic convention? We're not signatories to any galactic conventions," Heon replied calmly. "And right now, those conventions aren't going to save your friends." Back on the Retribution, Lieutenant Suman was working with the ship's computer systems, her fingers flying across multiple interfaces. "Captain, I've successfully reprogrammed the food synthesizers. We can now produce highly corrosive compounds using the organic waste from the mess hall." Captain Junho nodded approvingly. "Excellent. What about the environmental systems?" Air recyclers can now concentrate oxygen to dangerous levels, reported Corporal Minho from the life support station. We can turn any enclosed space into a firebomb. The Vex High Queen watched the tactical display with growing unease. Her bioships were reporting impossible readings from the human vessels. Their enemies were somehow increasing their firepower. Without adding new weapon systems, how are they doing this? She clicked to her tactical advisor. Their ships should be depleted by now, but the humans were just getting started. In the station's research lab, Private Tyke was combining the xenobiology equipment with their combat gear. The research station's particle accelerator, designed for peaceful scientific experiments, was being converted into a weapon that could punch through Vex high bioarmor. This is insane, Dr. Minji muttered as she watched the humans work. You're using laboratory equipment as weapons. Everything has a dual purpose, Tyke explained, while calibrating the particle beam. This accelerator studies matter at the atomic level. But atoms are atoms, whether you're studying them or using them. To cut through enemy holes. The Vexi had fought countless species across the galaxy, but they had never encountered anything like this. Most civilizations had clear distinctions between civilian and military technology. The humans seemed to view everything as potential. Ammunition Gween Zixthara, as compound eyes tracked the human fleet movements with growing alarm. These creatures weren't just violating the rules of civilized warfare, they were rewriting them entirely. Every piece of equipment, every system, every tool was being transformed into an instrument of war. What manner of beings are these? She wondered aloud, her voice carrying a tremor of fear that her warriors had never heard before. The UES Retribution's hull groaned under the stress as Captain Junho pushed the engines far beyond their safety limits. The massive Vex High command vessel loomed ahead, its bioorganic surface pulsing with alien life. Around the bridge, his crew worked with desperate efficiency, knowing their captain was about to attempt something that would either save the day or kill them all. Sir. Hull integrity is at 60%, reported Chief Engineer Hannah, her voice steady despite the circumstances. If we ram that ship, we might not survive the impact. Junho's hands gripped the command chair as he stared at the alien vessel. Sometimes the best strategy is the one your enemy never expects. They think we're civilized. Let's prove them wrong. The Vexi Queen watched from her throne chamber as the human ship accelerated directly toward her vessel. Her mandibles clicked. In confusion, no species had ever attempted such a suicidal maneuver. Ramming attacks were considered barbaric by galactic standards, abandoned centuries ago in favor of more sophisticated tactics. Impact in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Suman, her voice tight with controlled fear.
All hands.
Brace for collision, Junho commanded. Boarding parties, prepare for immediate assault. The Retribution struck the Vex High command ship with the force of a meteor. The bioorganic hull rippled and cracked under the impact, its living tissue trying desperately to seal the massive breach. But the human ship's reinforced prow punched deep into the alien vessel's core. Emergency lights flickered as both ships shuddered from the collision. On the human bridge, sparks flew from overloaded systems, but the crew was already moving. Junho stood up, checking his sidearm and combat knife. Commander Jinwoo, you have the bridge, he said calmly. I'm going hunting. Captain, you can't. Go in there alone, Jinwoo protested. Let the Marines handle this. The Marines are busy securing the station, Junho replied, injecting a combat stimulant into his neck. Besides, this is personal now. The bioorganic corridors of the Vexi ship were like walking through the intestines of some massive creature. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and the air was thick with alien pheromones. Yonho moved through the passages with deadly purpose, his enhanced senses tracking the chemical signatures that led to the command center. Vexi warriors emerged from hidden alcoves, their bioweapons crackling with energy. But the combat stims had pushed Junho's reflexes to superhuman levels. He moved like a predator in his element. Ducking and weaving through their attacks with fluid grace, the Queen's throne chamber was a cathedral of living bone and sinew. Queen. Zixara rose from her massive seat, her forearms spreading wide to display her natural weapons. She was twice the size of her warriors, a perfect killing machine evolved over millions of years. "So," she hissed in perfect English, her translation implants working overtime. The apex predator reveals itself. Junho drew his combat knife, the blade gleaming under the chamber's organic lighting. "You picked the wrong species to mess with." Queen lunged forward with inhuman speed, her razor-sharp claws extending toward Junho's throat. But humans had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill them. They had learned to fight monsters in the dark, to never give up, to keep hunting. Even when wounded, the battle was fierce and brutal, lasting only minutes but feeling like hours. When it ended, the Queen lay still. Psychic screams echoed through the Vexai fleet. The moment Queen Zixthora's life ended, something extraordinary happened across the Vexai fleet. The bioships began to shudder and convulse as psychic feedback waves rippled through their organic neural networks. Warriors who had been coordinating perfectly suddenly found themselves alone. Cut off from the hive mind that had guided them for their entire lives, Captain Junho wiped the alien blood from his combat knife as he watched the chaos unfold through the command ships, viewing portals. The massive Vexai fleet, which had seemed so terrifying just minutes before, was now falling apart like a house of cards. Ships drifted aimlessly, their crews paralyzed by the sudden loss of their queens, controlling presence. "This is Commander Jinwoo to all human vessels," came the voice through Jinho's communicator. "The enemy fleet is in complete disarray, requesting permission to engage." Junho's voice was cold as winter steel. "Permission granted. Show them what happens when you trade in innocent lives." The human fleet moved through the scattered Vexai ships like wolves among sheep. There was no mercy in their attack. These aliens had built their entire civilization on the suffering of others. For centuries, they had raided peaceful worlds, stealing people from their homes and families to sell in distant slave markets. Dr. Mingi watched from the research station's observation deck as the human ships systematically destroyed the raider vessels. Her hands shook as she operated the recording equipment, documenting every moment of the battle. The galaxy would need to know what these mysterious humans were capable of. "They're not even trying to escape," whispered Dr. Yuna, standing beside her colleague. "The Vexa ships are just floating there. Their entire species is built around the hive mind," Mingi explained, her voice filled with scientific fascination and horror. "Without their queen, they're like insects without a brain. They literally don't know how to function independently." Destroyer U.S. Shadowhawk, commanded by Captain Deho, moved between the disabled bioships with deadly precision. Each weapon strike was calculated and efficient. The humans wasted no energy, no ammunition, no time. They had learned efficiency from Earth's harshest predators. "Target destroyed," reported the weapons officer aboard the Shadowhawk, moving to the next vessel. But not all the Vexai ships were helpless. Like some of the smaller vessels still had enough independent thought to attempt escape. These ships tried to flee toward the system's edge, their bioorganic hulls rippling with desperate energy. The human ships pursued them like hunting hounds. Lieutenant Sumin aboard the Retribution tracked the fleeing vessels with cold precision. "Captain, 3 raiders attempting to escape to hyperspace. Should we let them go?" "Negative," Junho replied firmly. "We can't allow word of this battle to spread." Yet, the human fleet's coordination was flawless. Each ship knew exactly where to be and when to fire. They had turned the art of war into a science, and the Vexai were learning too late that they had picked a fight with the wrong species. Dr. Minji continued recording, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. In less than 6 hours, an unknown species had appeared from nowhere and completely destroyed the most feared raider fleet in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The debris field that had once been the most feared raider fleet in the galaxy slowly drifted through space as the human ships prepared to depart. Dr. Minji stood in the research station's main docking bay, watching as the last of the human marines finished their final security sweep. The mysterious warriors who had saved them were getting ready to disappear back into the void. She approached Captain Junho as he supervised the loading of his wounded crew members. The human leader looked tired but satisfied, like a predator. that had successfully defended its territory, was something in his eyes that reminded her of the ancient legends, where people told about the mythical guardians of the galaxy. "Captain," she said hesitantly, "I have to ask you something. Why did you come? Your people don't know us. We're complete strangers from a species you've never encountered before." Junho paused in his work and turned to face her. His weathered face showed the kind of wisdom that only came from years of making difficult decisions in the darkness of space. "Dr. Minji, on my homeworld, we have a saying. We judge a civilization not by how it treats its strongest members, but by how it protects its weakest. But the risk," she pressed on, "you could have been killed. Your entire fleet could have been destroyed for strangers." "That's exactly why we had to come," Junho replied with a slight smile. "Where I come from, we learned a long time ago that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about working together, protecting each other, and never abandoning those who need help." Dr. Minji felt her scientific curiosity overwhelming her gratitude. "Your species, your technology, your fighting methods, none of it appears in any galactic database. Where do you come from?" Junho was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the stars through the docking bay's transparent barrier. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day, a planet where the storms could level mountains, where the predators hunted. In packs where even the plants were deadly, we call it Earth." "Earth," she repeated the word, testing how it felt. "That's not in any of our star charts." "No, it wouldn't be," Junho admitted. "We've been watching the galaxy for over 50 years, learning about the different species, studying the threats and opportunities. The Galactic Confederation has been under our protection this whole time, and they never knew it. The implications hit Dr. Minji like a physical blow. You've been guardians, silent protectors. Someone had to be," Junho said simply. "The galaxy is full of predators like the Vexhai, species that prey on the weak and innocent. But now they know that Earth is watching, and we don't approve of their methods." As the human ships began to depart, Dr. Minji realized that everything was about to change. The research station's databanks now contained the first comprehensive record of human military capabilities. Soon, the Galactic Confederation would learn that the universe's apex predators had been their silent guardians all along. The age of humanity hiding in the shadows was over. The galaxy was about to discover that it had new neighbors, and these neighbors had very strong opinions about bullies.